Hello and welcome along to Mondo Chelloveck Movies. My name is John, and in this video I'm going to talk more about the 4K of Texas Chainsaw Massacre from Second Sight, also the 4K of Martin from Second Sight, and a quick talk about the 4K of the Changeling from Second Sight. This is the Blu-ray, as you can see, but I do have spoiler alert from a forthcoming John Ho video, the Changeling on 4K. Now John let me have this for a great price since it came damaged. And I'll share my thoughts on this version, the 4K version, because with this coming out by Second Sight on 4K, I can tell you what I thought of this 4K. So first up this morning, I watched the 4K of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I've got to say, without a shadow of a doubt, this is the best version and the best experience I've ever had with this movie. I love this movie. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I love everything about it. I think it's pretty much a perfect movie. And yes, it hasn't got much gore in it, hasn't got much blood in it, but that doesn't matter because I think the feel of this movie is what makes this movie great. And if you haven't seen it, I'll leave a link down below to the opening of this set. So on this watch of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there was a lot of shots in here that were like dolly shots or tracking shots. They didn't need to be in here, but Toby Hooper put them in, and that just shows you he had a bit of an extra vision on this movie. And these things, I mean, I've noticed them before, but on this one, because I was taking that much of a notice at the picture because I wanted to sort of drink it up, I did pay more attention to the way the film was shot, and I do think that there's a lot more to this movie than just what it says it is. I think you're going to get a lot more out of it. You're going to get a bit of a filmmaking experience, for want of a better word. So in the highly unlikely event of you not seeing this movie before, do keep an eye out for those things because they are quite stand out for me. And some of the scenes that I took some shots on my phone of some standout scenes for me, and I'm going to go through them and I'm going to show you them. So please accept the fact that it's not going to be like the best state-of-the-art shots that you're going to get. It's just on my phone, but I think you got a good idea of what to expect from this 4K, and I'll show you a few things that really stood out to me. Also, I'm halfway through watching The Legacy of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a new feature-length documentary produced by Second Sight Films. It's absolutely brilliant, actually. It's really enthralling. Another great documentary on here to watch is The Shocking Truth. That's a full-length documentary about this, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's one of those ones that's really stand out, and it's when they're sort of putting these things out on DVD, that was one of the things that was like a selling point, to put these extra stuff on. You were like, wow, it's one of the first sort of DVDs I ever bought of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I'll show you the screenshots now that I took on my phone. This is a great shot from the start of the movie. You can really see the colours on the van and also the sharpness of the grass as well. I know this is not really representative of the 4K, but it'll give you a bit of an overall feel of what it's all about. Nice bit of detail of that crazy drunk in the graveyard. Here's an example of the subtitles which stand out really well. As you'll see, sometimes in the van, the picture quality goes down a little touch. It's a bit grainy in the van. I think that's just because of the sort of light when they were shooting inside. Great shot of the hitchhiker there, daubing his blood all over the van. Lovely blue skies. There's the reds in this movie. They really are a standout. The reds just look absolutely sensational. Now this movie does have Dolby Vision, and you can tell. Now the Dolby Vision does make the picture a little bit slightly darker. If you look at the Blu-ray, it's a bit lighter, but for me that doesn't matter because you're just getting this extra boost of all this what you're seeing in this picture. When you're watching this movie and you get something red on the screen, it really jumps out at you. Speaking of reds, one of my favourite scenes from the whole movie. It's absolutely brilliant. I mean, look at that. Look at the red on there. Look at the blue on the sky, the green on the trees, the actual building. It's just so good. That dolly track, however they use it, is just absolutely amazing. There's good old Gunnar Hansen. The dinner table scene, another iconic scene from this movie. Look at the hitchhiker's face. It's hilarious, actually, if I think about it. Obviously, I have to show you a picture of Marilyn Burns' eyes. Wow. Green or what? How was that for detail? I love the chef's laugh at this dinner scene. And there's Sally having a great time. And lastly, good old Gunnar having the dance at sunrise. Also, my last video, I've got a great comment from Ben Pascal, and he was talking about the differences between this version and also the Dark Sky version. So Ben Pascal said, Second Sight cites this as a new presentation featuring additional restoration work. Well, that additional restoration work is what I assume gives this presentation a cleaner appearance. The source damage, like scratches and tram lines, specks of dirt and other noise and anomalies that can still be seen in the Dark Sky release. Even with the cleaner appearance, the grain is still left intact, but looks a little finer, yet still natural. So thanks once again, Ben, for sending me that comment. Cheers, mate. So I kind of find that sums this release up to a T. This movie has been cleaned up, yes. It has got all of the sort of bad stuff taken out of it, but it still retains that look of a low-budget horror film. They've cleaned it up enough to make it look spectacular, but they haven't went to the next level, which is DNR, which everyone would hate to see on this. They haven't put any false colours into it for me. I think all the colours that they boosted are the colours that need to be boosted. And I think that the bits that you see that are a bit grainy need to be grainy because that's where they are. But they're not too, it's not too much in your face, it's not too noisy, it's not too distracting. When I watched this, to be honest, half the time I wasn't really seeing grain. The only reason I probably took so much notice of this movie was because I was getting them shots from my camera. So for me, Second Sight have totally retained the integrity of this movie. Yes, they've cleaned it up, yes, it looks perfect, but perfect as much as Texas Chainsaw Massacre can look. It doesn't look like a false version of it. It looks like, I would imagine, the best that you could ever see this movie in without doing anything really untoward with it. So that's why this movie gets 10 out of 10 for me. The presentation, everything about it, I just love everything about it. I love the fact that they went to the sort of ends of the earth to get this thing put together. When Second Sight, I mean, it takes them forever. It seems like it takes them forever to do it. But you know that when they do it well. And they spend time on it. They're not going to rush anything into it. They're going to just put this out in the best possible way, which they have done. So 10 out of 10 for this one. Cannot recommend this movie highly enough. So quick thoughts on Second Sight's The Changeling. Now this is the Blu-ray. This is the 4K remaster there. And it's not a bad version at all. It's quite a good version actually. So do know that if you've got this movie, you probably know that when you've seen this disc. But if you, like I did when I first put it on, I just checked out the original, like say 5 minutes. I was thinking, this doesn't look that good to me. But obviously I was wrong because I didn't go any further in the movie. I had a great time when I watched this movie. So I thought maybe the 4K will sort that out. Well, I don't think it does actually, but that's not a problem because when it comes into its own, it is absolutely incredible, like I say. And this one has got, I think it's got the same extras as that one, and I would imagine that it would have the same ones with maybe a little fewer other ones. I haven't watched the extras on here actually, but I've watched all the extras on there and they were pretty good actually. So I now show you the various shots I took on my phone. So these are from the 4K 7 release. As you can see, they're not really sharp. They're a little bit on the soft side. Again, not too bad, but not a really great 4K picture. Again, this scene is from the first 5 minutes. Now after this scene, I think this is where this movie comes to life. So after about 5 minutes, this movie just gets really colourful and pin sharp. And as you can see, there's some great colours, ultra sharp faces, and there's the menu. So if you are thinking about picking the Second Sight version up, do know that this one looks absolutely brilliant. Stick with it for the first 5 minutes though. And I can't see that Second Sight being any worse than this, and it would probably be better actually. They'll probably do a little bit of extra restoration like they've done with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So for me, it's a no-brainer to go and get that one, and do rest assured that you're probably going to get something that looks equally as good or better than this one. And don't forget to stick around for part 4 or when me and John got together and you'll see this release featured on there. And also, thanks again John for getting this to me at a great price. Cheers mate. So finally I watched Martin, and previously I'd said that this movie was quite grainy, and it is quite grainy. When I originally flicked through this movie, I thought the grain was quite noisy at times. But I've got to say, on this watch, for some reason, it seems as if the grain wasn't as bad, and it just really didn't bother us that much. Now, what I did was I actually looked to see if I'd put the Blu-ray on and not the 4K, so that kind of shows you what I was thinking about. So on the back of that, I had a better viewing experience than I thought I was going to have. So I've changed my view slightly on the presentation of this. I think the 4K is pretty good. Yes, it's not great. It's never going to look great. They're not even using the original 16mm negatives, unfortunately, which are lost at this point. So originally I thought I'd watch the 4K once maybe, and then move on to Blu-ray for my desired watch. But if I'm honest, I think that I can really get away with the 4K because it's not as bad as I originally thought for whatever reason. So right now I'll show you some screenshots I took on my phone. And this is at the start on the train. I think at the train it's quite dark in there. And sometimes in the interior shots aren't the best in this movie. So as you can see with the HDR, this movie really comes to life in the colours. So when you get outside, this movie does look a lot better. Yes, the grain's still there, and the picture isn't like 100% sharp, but it's much sharper than it was at the start of the movie. Obviously again, when you see some reds, they really do stand out. In certain settings, this movie is quite low on the grain. Again, some lovely colours. Don't you just love 70s fashion? You have to remember that this movie is quite low budget, so don't be surprised if some of these scenes are, quite soft. This scene at the dinner table is probably one of my favourites in the movie. I think the reaction from Christine Forrest is probably really 100% real. It's great actually. Lovely shot here. You can see this movie has some great colours in it at times. And there's Martin hiding in the bushes doing what he does best. So after the movie I did start to check out Taste the Blood of Martin, a new feature-length documentary including location tour. And that features Martin, John Amplis, great guy. And they're going on some location tours with some of the writers and producers. It's brilliant actually. So I consider this to be one of George A. Romero's best films. It's so different from anything else. Yes, it's a vampire film, but it's also more than that. It's a kind of psychological drama. It's got a lot to do with kind of youth and somebody growing up who's like an outsider, a misfit. He's basically a serial killer as well as elements of like a slasher. There's elements of like a house invasion. It's got everything in this movie, and I think that it was done really well. The presentation is the best I would think they can get for this at the moment. Will there be another one? I think if they find the original negatives, there possibly could be. But at this point, I can't see that happening. And I'm more than happy with the presentation that Second Sight have done with Martin. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a 10 out of 10. It's absolutely brilliant. Martin is, for me, it's a bit better than I thought it was when I watched it fully. Yes, it's not the best 4K, but I think it's the best ever version on 4K you will get of this movie, and it's a great movie as well. And also the Changeling, stay around after the first 5 minutes if you buy one and you think, well, this isn't that good, because it does come to life after the first 5 minutes, and it's absolutely brilliant. Now, will Second Sight do some additional restoration of it? It remains to be seen, but it'll be interesting to see what they put out. So, thanks for watching, you take care, and I will see you on the next video. Cheers!